this video, we're going to talk about HR math. Sometimes that's tough for us in HR, but as my other guests have often said, we need to get better at it. So today we're going to talk about HR math and some metrics. What should we in HR be aware of and how do we get better at it? That's coming up right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams and the host of HR Shop Talk. It's a show where you get some expert insight into HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen so you can continue learning from those who have lots of experience. Today, my guest is Foster Williams, who's the president of Everlast Consulting Solutions. He has years of global HR experience helping organizations improve their numbers, both overall and the contributing HR numbers. Hi, Foster. How are you?
Good, Andrea. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Okay, Foster. So let's just dive in. You talk about HR math. So can you tell me what you mean by that?
Certainly. So HR math is an extension of the business math. So we have to start at the top end of the pipeline, which is the business math, and then we move down to the back end, which is HR math. So in simple terms, we must know off the top how the company makes money and how people that we employ impact that revenue generation. So that's the income coming in. The second thing we must know about is how the company spends money and its direct relationship to employing people. So that's our expenses going out. So income and expenses of the business are important to know.
Okay. So maybe you've mentioned it already, but can you be crystal clear about which two key metrics HR professionals should know about their business?
Now, I don't know what your business is, but what I would do is I'd get together with the operations and the finance people and ask some serious questions about, and I say the top 5, it could be the top 3 or the top 6. I'm not sure what it is, but I want to know the primary line items of how do we make money? How do we generate income coming in? And then I asked them to educate me on what are the primary line items of expenses going out the door. And so when I know income and expenses, I am better equipped to understand how people, those we employ, impact those numbers. And that's really what I'm after.
Okay. All right. So young HR professionals often make few decisions and sometimes they're never asked about business numbers. It doesn't come up in their meetings. So why should they bother? What can a young HR professional do with knowledge of key business metrics?
If you want to have a good, robust career, then it's your responsibility. It's on you to learn about the math of the business. If it doesn't come up in the meetings you attend, it's because your leaders or whoever is running the meeting isn't focused on the business math. So then gets on your shoulders to go out and figure out the business math that I just covered. How do we make money? How do we spend money? What happens is if you don't show an interest in the business math, it's been my experience that the operations and finance leaders will tolerate you. They see HR as a necessary evil, not as a business partner. They see you as people who tell them what they can't do versus what they can do. And so if you really want to be a business partner with the business drivers, you need to speak their language. And they will then embrace you and educate you. I look at the young people that come into the business and I start to think about, are they motivated to do a great job? Do they show up on time, fit to perform? Do they run to the fire when we got a problem? Do they help? Do they take interest in the business? You do that, you get that stuff right, you are incredibly valuable to your employer.
All right. So if you found this interesting or compelling, subscribe and you're going to see all the episodes and talk to us. Use this as an opportunity to learn. What are the key metrics for your work and how have they made a difference? Let us know in the comment section below. So Foster, can you talk about a metric that measures people performance? And if there's more than one, by all means.
Okay. When I get into a business, I take a look at the regular full-time headcount. So there'll be a number of employees. It could be 100 or 10,000. It doesn't matter what the number is. Then I take a look at gross revenue. And so I start to see if we have 1,000 employees and we make $100 million, I mean, you do the math, that should be $100,000 per employee is what our gross revenue is. What I would need to do as an HR professional is figure out how I can make the delta better, how I can get more money out of one regular full-time headcount. So I have a baseline. I know it's $100,000 per individual. Now, how do I get that up to $110,000? How do I help get it up to $120,000? All of those things are important to the business. And you remember I spoke in an earlier video about why profit matters is when you're highly profitable, all stakeholders win, and employees are a key stakeholder. They benefit from a good, profitable company. So that's just one thing I look at. Okay. Then another thing I like to look at is what I call the real cost of labor. So there is direct cost of labor, which is wages and benefits, and paid vacation time are just a couple of examples. But the indirect costs, these are very important costs as well, because they can add up to a significant dollar amount. They include everything from safety equipment to work tools, which could be all types of tools, including cell phones, computers, software, hard equipment like you would see a plumber or an electrician come in with. But it can include vehicles, real estate, training. All of these are expenses that are related to the fact that we employ a person. And so we have to know that math. And then what I also like to know is I want to sit down with each of my functional leaders. Now, most of the time I've been in larger firms, and when I've been the chief human resource officer, I have 6 groups, total compensation, workforce planning and recruitment would be the second group, workforce development, labor relations and when we're unionized, workforce accountability and performance management, no matter what kind of company it is. And the 6th one is often workforce communication and events. I would sit down with the leader of each group. We'd look at our business math metrics and say, how can your function impact increased revenue or decrease costs or both? And so that's the kind of conversation that has to go on. And I will tell you, it's tiny steps for tiny feet. Don't worry about trying to hit a home run at the start. Just start the process of getting that thinking going. And all of a sudden, you're going to start adding up nickels, dimes, and quarters. And over time, it's a big number. All
right. So what other advice do you have for young HR professionals around the numbers and the math?
Undoubtedly, as a young HR professional, you're going to be in one of those 6 functions I mentioned a little earlier. And what I would advise you to do is start a conversation with your supervisor and say, look, we've taken a look at the top line items on revenue, top line items on expenses from a recruiting perspective or a total comp perspective or a workforce development perspective. What numbers can we touch and how do we improve them? And so then that will cause you to look inwardly into your function and say, what metrics do we need to pay attention to? And I would suggest, honestly, start with 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter what you start with. It's the fact that you start down the journey of thinking about the numbers, and then you regularly measure them to see, are we improving or are we not? When you hear the term continuous improvement, it's about a lot of little tiny things that are done that add to the bottom line of a business. And that's what I would concentrate on as a young professional, adding to the bottom line, nickels, dimes, and quarters. Read books. The classics are written by such people as a guy named Elliot Jacques, Edward Deming, Harry Levinson, Dave Ulrich, the Gallup Organization, a guy named Dr. Claire Graves, Jim Collins, and those Harvard Business Review articles are wonderful.
So we need to be thinking about the numerical and statistical case for our work in HR. I did another episode with Foster on profitability in HR. Check that out. A link is at the end and in the description. See you next time, and thanks for watching.